Die, bitch. A Marine struck her in the mess hall, not knowing she was from a secret Navy SEAL unit. The mess hall was loud, metal trays clattering, boots scraping the floor, voices overlapping in exhausted conversation. For most Marines, it was just another routine meal after a brutal day of training. But for one woman seated near the far wall, this place was unfamiliar territory. Her name was Lieutenant Ava Carter. On paper, she was assigned as a logistics officer on temporary rotation. No medals on display, no stories shared, no reason to stand out. That was by design. What no one in that room knew was that Ava didn't belong to logistics. She belonged to something far more classified, a joint task unit pulled from Navy SEALs so secret that even her name barely existed in official records. Her mission here wasn't training, it was observation. She ate quietly, calm, controlled, eyes always aware. Across the hall, a group of Marines laughed loudly, riding the high of authority and fatigue. One of them, bigger than the rest, voice sharper, ego unchecked, noticed her sitting alone. "Hey," he muttered to his friends, nodding in her direction. They stared, smirked. As Ava stood to return her tray, she brushed past the Marine's table. It was accidental, barely a touch, but that was enough. The Marine stood fast, chair scraping hard against the floor. "Watch it," he snapped. Ava turned, measured, professional. "Didn't mean to," she said calmly. The Marine stepped closer, too close. His voice dropped, thick with disrespect. "You think you belong here?" The mess hall quieted. Not fully, but enough. Then he said it, loud, clear. "Die, bitch." Before anyone could react, he shoved her, not hard enough to knock her down, but hard enough to make a point. Ava didn't fall. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't touch him. She simply looked at him, eyes steady, emotionless, calculating. In her world, this wasn't provocation. It was information. The Marine laughed, mistaking her restraint for fear. He had no idea that the woman standing in front of him had ended missions in silence, neutralized threats without leaving a trace, and survived places he wouldn't last an hour. And what he had just done had triggered something far bigger than he could imagine. Music drops low. Tension hum. Narrator. What happened next wouldn't just change his career, it would expose a truth no one in that mess hall was prepared for. The moment after the shove stretched longer than it should have. Trays froze mid-air, conversations died halfway through sentences. Every Marine in the mess hall felt it. The line had been crossed. Lieutenant Ava Carter adjusted her stance, feet shoulder-width apart, posture perfect, not defensive, not aggressive, controlled. The Marine who shoved her mistook that control for weakness. "You got a problem?" he sneered, stepping even closer. Ava didn't answer immediately. She knew the rules here. She knew the eyes watching, and more importantly, she knew that reacting the wrong way would compromise everything she'd been sent to protect. "I don't," she said calmly, "but you should step back." That only fed his ego. Or what? Before the situation could spiral further, a staff sergeant's voice cut through the tension. "That's enough." The Marine backed off just slightly, enough to pretend he was complying. Ava picked up her tray and turned away, her movements slow and deliberate. She wasn't retreating. She was disengaging. Behind her, the Marine laughed loud. "Figures," he muttered. "All mouth, no bite." Ava walked out without looking back. In the hallway, she paused, inhaled once, and exhaled slowly. Years of training kicked in, not combat drills, but something harder, discipline. In her line of work, discipline mattered more than strength. Within minutes, word spread up the chain.
The incident was reported, statements taken, names logged. What surprised everyone was Ava's account: short, factual, emotionless. No accusations, no embellishment, just facts. The Marine, confident and careless, told his version louder than necessary. He joked, shrugged, treated it like nothing more than a minor altercation. But as the hours passed, something felt off. Ava was called away, not to disciplinary review, but to a secure office. No insignia on the door, no windows. Inside, she made one quiet call. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't explain much. She didn't need to. Back at the barracks, the Marine's confidence began to crack when he noticed unfamiliar officers arriving on base. Not MPs, not instructors. Men and women who didn't wear their authority openly, but carried it effortlessly. No one said why they were there, but the atmosphere changed. And for the first time since the mess hall, the Marine felt something unfamiliar settle in his chest. Uncertainty. Because whatever he had started was no longer in his control. And in the next hours, the truth about who Ava Carter really was would come to light.
By nightfall, the base no longer felt the same. Conversations dropped when unfamiliar officers passed. Doors that were usually open stayed closed, and questions went unanswered. The Marine who had caused the incident sat on his bunk, restless. No charges had been read, no punishment issued, yet something was wrong. He could feel it. Then his name was called. Not shouted, not barked, calmly spoken by a senior officer he didn't recognize. No rank insignia visible, just quiet authority. He was escorted to a briefing room normally reserved for command-level operations. Inside, several officers waited, and standing near the far wall was Lieutenant Ava Carter. This time, she wasn't alone. 2 men flanked her. Their posture was different, their presence unmistakable. They didn't look like Marines. They didn't need to. The Marine straightened, suddenly aware of every mistake he'd made. "Sir," he began. "Sit," the officer said. Ava stepped forward. Her tone was even, controlled. "Earlier today, you assaulted a commissioned officer and used language unbecoming of any service member." The Marine swallowed. "It was nothing serious," he muttered. The officer tapped a folder on the table. "Lieutenant Carter is not assigned to this base." Another pause. "She is temporarily embedded under authority you do not have clearance to know." The Marine's confidence evaporated. "Clearance?" Ava met his eyes. "I am attached to a joint special operations unit," she said quietly. "My presence here was classified." Silence pressed in from every direction. One of the men beside her finally spoke. "You don't get to decide who belongs in uniform." The Marine's hands clenched. He realized now this wasn't about ego or a mess hall dispute. This was about respect, discipline, and the line he had crossed without knowing it existed. He had struck someone trained not just to fight, but to end conflicts before they began. Someone who had chosen restraint when force would have been easier. The senior officer closed the folder. "Your actions will be handled accordingly." The Marine nodded, unable to speak. As he was escorted out, Ava remained behind. Her role in this was finished. She hadn't needed to raise a hand. She hadn't needed to reveal herself earlier. Because true power didn't announce itself. It waited. And now the final consequences were coming. Music lowers, heavy and final. Narrator. What followed would end one career and redefine another. The consequences came quietly. No public spectacle, no shouting, no dramatic arrests. Just paperwork, sealed orders, and a sudden absence. By morning,
The Marine who had struck Lieutenant Ava Carter was gone from the barracks, his name removed from duty rosters, his leadership path erased in a single night. Officially, it was listed as a disciplinary reassignment. Unofficially, everyone knew his career as he imagined it was over. No one spoke about it openly. They didn't need to. Across the base, the atmosphere shifted. Conversations softened. Jokes died halfway through. Marines who had witnessed the mess hall incident now understood something most never learned the easy way. Uniforms don't define capability. Discipline does. Ava Carter returned to the mess hall one last time. Same room, same tables, different silence. Heads turned, not with fear, but respect. No one approached her. No one tested her. Later that afternoon, she stood outside a secured building, duffel bag at her feet. The same unmarked officers waited nearby. No ceremony, no goodbyes. Before leaving, Ava paused and looked back at the base. She hadn't proven anything with force. She hadn't revealed herself to intimidate. She had done something harder. She had chosen restraint. In her world, strength wasn't measured by who you could overpower, but who you didn't have to. As the vehicle pulled away, life on base resumed. Training continued. Orders were given. But something remained behind, an unspoken lesson carried by every Marine who had been there that day. Respect is not optional. Discipline is not negotiable. And you never truly know who stands beside you in uniform. Because some warriors don't wear their power openly. They carry it quietly, until it matters. United War outro music rises. Narrator. This is United War, where true strength is revealed, not announced.